Whatever you do, you don't want to miss today's Dottie Rambo magazine. You're not going to believe my guest today and the incredible story. Stay with us. No one person should have as much talent as my guest right now. One of the nicest young men you'll ever meet. I call him my son, Dony McGuire. I'm so glad you're with me. You going to be good today?
I'll be good, Mom. I promise.
You're a special boy. First of all, I want to ask you about the records you've produced and arranged vocally and musically. A lot of our friends out there watching would recognize the names.
I've got to work with lots of different people. Some of the best, and I guess some of the biggest. You and Dad are on the top of my list, and my wife.
What kind of list is this now?
This is my priority list.
Okay.
But I produced a couple records for Bill and Gloria Gaither, and the Gaither Trio, and Dave Boyer, and J.J. Lee, and I've had several projects that I've done myself and put together choir groups until I got a little sense about me about producing. I went through about 3 years that I did 20+ records a year.
I know.
And I finally decided that really wasn't what God wanted me to be doing, was staying in a studio 24 hours a day. So I got out of that and began really pursuing the gift of writing that I felt God had given me.
Where did you study music, Don?
I started studying when I was 5 from a private teacher, and I studied from her for about 10, 11 years. And during that time, I took a couple years of theory at the University of Tulsa just to help my music and composition work out. That's, I guess, really the foundation of where the gift of writing music came from, because I had to learn the principles.
You started with your family. Your father's a minister, and
Right.
you have a twin brother, Ron.
Right. Ronnie.
And how many sisters and brothers? Tell me who they are.
Well, Ronnie and I are the babies, and then Jerry, which you know real well.
Yeah, I love Jerry and Joan.
Then I have 2 other brothers, Jack and Robert. My sisters are the oldest, Wilma and Brenda. And then my mom and dad, Mac and Mabel.
They're great people. Y'all, it's sort of like our family. You started traveling with a whole group in kind of like a worn-out car.
We had a 12-foot trailer that all 7 of us traveled in, and we would sleep in that. Now, sometimes if we were lucky and the weather was nice and not too many ticks at the brush arbor, somebody would sleep in a sleeping bag. But you can imagine 9 people trying to sleep in a 12-foot trailer. It was.
What kind of instruments did you? I know all the guys plays, don't they?
Well, Jerry played the steel guitar, Jack played a big bull bass, Robert played the guitar, I played the piano, Ronnie played the accordion, and my dad played the guitar. So, I mean, we had a musical
Where'd you put all the instruments with all those
in the
kids?
trailer.
Oh, in the...
See, we were all packed in the station wagon.
Well, you're talking about a trailer you pull on the back.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant a mobile home.
Well, it was a 12-foot mobile home. That was before buses.
That's really wanting to be in the ministry, isn't it, Don?
Right.
That's great, but a few years ago, a lot of people did it that way. We've done it that way. Pull this little trailer and wear out the car, and the tires get slick quick when you pull something that heavy.
That's
you know?
right.
Well, you started then on the keyboard. Like, how old were you when you started piano?
Well, that's 5.
That was when you started.
That's when I started really playing.
When did you find out you had the ability to arrange vocally and musically and direct and produce?
I'd played with that. Growing up in a musical family, by the time I was 12, 13 years old, I'd try to do an arrangement for the guys or teach them this part or that part. I didn't really realize that it was a gift and something that I should exercise a lot until I was about 18, 19 years old. And then the more I got into arranging vocals or arranging tracks, by the time I moved to Nashville, I started doing records. I wanted to try to get my foot in the door some way, so I would do anything. I'd do a record for $200 and somehow do it. You know.
You just a kid. When I met you, you were already producing.
And so that helped me to just exercise a gift. And what it did was it really brought out the writer, the inside of me, and a gift that was trying to come out to write music. By doing so many arrangements for 4 or 5 years there, it really got me to thinking, you know, I want to write music. And I didn't start writing till about 6 years ago.
Oh, but you're doing some good stuff now, boy. I'm telling you. You know, Donnie, backing back in the story a little bit, about 10 years old when you had your accident. See, when I met you, you were a running boy, running scared. You're trying to get into everything, trying to find yourself, and pretty bitter, if you remember, years and years and years ago. And tell us a little bit, just however you feel like telling it, about your accident, the miracle of the whole thing, your attitude now. Of course, I can tell you about your attitude now about this, but share that with us.
Well, you know, being 9 years old, being a big sports fan and having a house full of brothers that you went out and you had your own baseball team. You know, we'd take on anybody in the neighborhood just about. Being really active like that, and then one Sunday afternoon after church, we were having lunch with a close family of ours, and quite a traumatic thing of losing a leg. Just before lunch was served, it did get me really bitter. I didn't realize how bitter until probably 4 or 5 years ago, because it just kept building up and I couldn't release that. Although God helped me through my mother to understand that because I had lost a leg, I needed to really get into my music and really work hard on my music. And so she kept forcing that issue on me, which I thank God for today. At that time, that made me more bitter. But today I can look back and I can see how God must have been speaking to her to keep the switch after me to practice and to work.
Aren't you glad?
Yes, I am.
Don, how did the accident happen? I know it got you right below the knee.
I was riding a bicycle and a car swerved around a big truck and took my leg, and it crushed this arm from my wrist to my elbow. It was just literally crushed. My shoulder was broken, all out of socket. When the doctors first saw my arm, it was laying across my chest. My mother had laid it there and had just been praying for it and rubbing it. Well, it was already fixed to be set, but they could see all the breaks in it. I had no feeling in it, and the doctor said I'd never use the arm again. 2 days later, my fingers, I was moving my fingers. 6 weeks later, they took the cast off. No swelling to any extent. And so I saw then that God really was performing miracles of healing in my life. The whole accident, the part with the leg, was supposed to be 6 months before I'd walk again. 3 months later, I was walking.
With an artificial limb?
With an artificial limb. And so all the time was cut in half concerning that period of time in my life.
Well, God had some neat things in store for you, Don, as you know, and it must have really been frustrating to a 9-year-old boy that lost all possibilities of ever being an athlete and living in a family that, as you said, were athletic. And then that started driving you, I personally know, into some things that I want you to share in your own way, the way you feel like you'd like to do it. Not knowing that you were still carrying the bitterness in your heart from the person that hit you on the bicycle. That we've talked about this, and you really had to have some folks to talk with you to get that bitterness out. But I kind of want you to share in a very sensitive way that I know you can do what sort of happened that led you up to a real tragedy and then on to a miracle.
Well, because of that, from the time, you know, being raised in a religious home, a religious a pastor for a father, your oldest brother is a minister, you're constantly being surrounded by the religious world. By the time I left home when I was 16, I was, because of bitterness toward just life, And then bitterness toward the church, because so many times I'd question God, why me?
Yeah.
You know, here I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, and why did I have to go through this? And by the time I left home, I was so ready to spread my wings and try a few things that I had no idea existed in the world. That I started a little bit here, a little bit there, and at that point, a little bit was going to a movie. I'd never been to a movie other than the Ten Commandments. I didn't know what movie houses were all about. I didn't know what smoking cigarettes were all about. I didn't know what drinking beer was all about. I didn't know anything about drugs. Where I went to school was a small town. I had no idea that drugs really existed when I was 16 years old.
You had a very sheltered life.
I was so sheltered, and one thing led to another, and my life started into a pattern of straying in and out of the church, even though I was still really involved in the religious work or religious music. I found out real quick that all people who were in the ministry weren't what they said they were. And I ran into some of the wrong people and got on the wrong track. And because of that, my conscience all of a sudden began to work however I wanted it to. I could satisfy my own mind that, hey, you know what, as long as I don't just get really wasted, this is okay. What I didn't know that was a lie of Satan.
Sure.
And that he was going to use that as long as he could on me. And he did, till the point that I almost lost my life because of drugs and alcohol. And being a young man, to go through something that I thought only 50 and 60-year-old men faced. There was no way a guy in his mid-20s could be an alcoholic. His early 20s, no, not a drug addict. You have to do that for years and years. But that's not true. And I found myself all of a sudden to where I couldn't live if I didn't have a bottle, if I didn't have grass, if I didn't have speed, if I didn't have downers. Everything I took, I had to have something to react to that. And I just could not believe that being in my early 20s, that I could get trapped like that.
Yeah, and you know, Don, you've shared with me that even back then, you respected your parents so very much that you always knew how to handle yourself when you went home. You would hide and do this, and you were telling me that you were into so much of it that you were almost had built up an immunity till you had to have more and more and more.
I had built up such a resistance or tolerance to alcohol that when I really found myself, I was drinking 1.5 quarts a day.
Oh,
and
my Lord.
You know, it's the wonders that I'm still alive.
It's a miracle.
But the way God will use things to really just startle our minds and to wake us up. I'd never been in jail. I'd never, none of that stuff. You know, I was too good. I was in the religious work, even though my idea at that time was, well, I drink a little much, I use a little too much this, or I do a little too much that. I had never been behind bars. One night, I got picked up, and I was behind bars. And
That's not funny, but it is funny. I can see you.
Oh my goodness, what am I doing here? And I remember just going home, and instead of being someone that would say, oh my God, now I can really see what I've done, I got more bitter. And literally just wanted to go even further against what I knew was right. But Satan had such a hold on me that he wanted me dead. He didn't want to settle for anything less. He wanted to kill the body and
the gift and everything.
And between the night that I got out of jail and the day that I woke up, I went through 4 days that I couldn't really tell you what happened. Other than I know that I had cases of booze and drugs that I just didn't know who I was. And God spoke to me so gently. And it was like, he just said, Donnie, aren't you really tired of this? Aren't you ready to get back to life and what life is all about? And I didn't really think I could get back there. I thought I'd gone so far that my life was in such drudgery that I might as well go ahead and end life. I thought that was the best way, but God wouldn't allow that. He just...
No way.
It's like I kept hearing him say, Donnie, I've invested too much. You
Yep.
played around too long. Don't you want to really know what living is all about? And the miracle of saying, hey, God, I want to know. And then opening myself to the point that God could perform the miracle. And
it's heavy.
Not to go through any withdrawals, for the amount of
no
drugs,
withdrawals?
no withdrawals, to know that only
Whoa.
God could touch me, and know that I was so sincere, because I was at the bottom. I had nowhere else to go. But for him to say, you know what, I'm going to make this real easy. And what he did was to take all of that, to give me an immediate hunger, just to hold his word. I'd walk around with the word on my chest, and I'd read the word and pray the word. And to see the amount of time that God has allowed me to live without any chemicals, any drug whatsoever, and to see the years of happiness and restoration that not only has come to me, but to my family, that God has so used this whole incident in my life, because Donnie was put up on the pedestal. Nobody really knew that Donnie was going through a lot of stuff till Donnie had the chance to sit and share with his family about a miracle that God had done in my life. And because we are raised in a religious family, doesn't mean that we're protected from that.
That's
if anything,
right.
Satan's going to get out to destroy us even more so.
And it doesn't mean that our parents are to blame for that.
Oh, no.
Because I know your parents, and they're special people. And Donnie, there's just lots of kids out there that's listening to you. They have to be moved by all this. Because to see Dony McGuire and to watch you perform, and to see you on stage, see you in church, and watch you in a studio, and to see your attitude. Of course, I'm not prejudiced, but you have the most marvelous attitude and personality, and you're vibrant and bubbly. But to see that, you never dreamed that you've come through all of that. And here you are, your mind could have been blown.
That was the miracle of what God can do with a life that is really sincere and humble before him. It's like he just touches us like that.
Yeah.
And with a touch, we're transformed.
Yeah.
I look at work that I do today, that I've done in the past
years. It's so different,
years,
isn't it, Don?
And to know that 5, 6, 8 years ago, I could not have done what I'm capable of doing now. But it's only because God has totally restored my mind, my hands, my heart. I mean, it's a total transformation.
I have, years and years ago, I've been in a studio where rhythmically you would lose it, and you wouldn't even know. I'd be coming in and out the studio, and you'd be in there producing records, and you honestly was totally out of rhythm with the band. And you would never believe that until, the years ago when you were making records. We play those old records now, and you just say, I can't believe where the Lord's brought me from.
Oh, yeah.
Don, this is about as heavy as I've ever had on the magazine show. It really is. And the most marvelous, it's the greatest feeling to hear about miracles like this, because I know that your life is totally in restoration with the Lord. I know that, because I live around you all the time, and you're a special boy. And this is the first time I've ever asked anybody to really do this on the magazine show, but I think we should. I feel like we should. Why don't you look right, the camera right in front of you, and just have you feel like maybe talking to some producers, singers, writers, laymen, or whoever, and just sort of talk with them a minute here before we leave.
It doesn't matter, Mom, if those people that are listening are just normal lay people. Sometimes we say, because nobody is normal. We're all special because God took the time to make you. He took the time to make me. And within every man, there is a sense of responsibility to God that sometimes we allow to go to sleep. We can call it conscious. We can call it our attitude toward life, We can call it bitterness because we were raised a certain way. But wherever you are, God meets you at that level. You don't have to be at the level Dony McGuire is. Dony McGuire went to the bottom, and Christ met me at the bottom. There are a lot of people who, in their own minds and in their own way of thinking, are at the top. And that's okay too, because Christ can meet you at your top. He will meet you wherever you are. And because you're in music, or because you're in the church, or because you're a housewife, or because you're a successful businessman, does not allow you to be free or sheltered from anything that Satan wants to destroy you with. And he'll get your mind to, he'll fool you. He will let you live a lie and believe that you're okay, because I did. And wherever you are, if you really become and are becoming honest within yourself to say, you know what, Donnie's telling me something that I need to talk to myself about. All you have to do is say, God, I'm really ready. I'm tired of this, and I do want to know what life is. And Christ can transform your life.
Amen.
Just like that. And with a touch, he can take everything in your life that you want him to have, as long as you're willing to give it. He'll take that and he'll put it as far as for the east is from the west, and he won't remember it. And he gives you the ability to forget all of those haunting, bad memories. I laugh about a lot of the bad memories today. I went through a time that I just, oh, I can't believe I did this. And God said, Donnie, you don't have to put yourself down. Right. Laugh about the past. You're growing from the past.
That's it. Growing. That's a good word. Good word. Donnie, since all the restoration, the healing, and the new life, and the new music, where's your ministry headed now? What are you into now? I know good things.
I see that God has used everything that's happened in my life to allow me to see the church today. See, because maybe I went a little further than some people have gone, I'm no different than everybody in the church that Satan is out attacking.
Sure.
And he's going to get, that's, you know, Christ comes to us at our level, but Satan comes to us at our level also. And whatever he can use to destroy us with, he will. Whether it's our relationship with our children, our relationship with our wives, our relationship to drugs. You know, there are so many people that today are drug addicts, and the doctor gives them the prescription to be it. And they don't understand that Satan is just letting them live another lie here.
Yeah.
But because God has allowed me to live through this and to grow through this, he has allowed me to know that I, as a part of his body, am maturing and growing up. And the church as a whole is growing up, and we are learning that if you and I have some big dispute, it's not between Dottie and Donnie. It's between the spirits of darkness that are prevailing in this world. Because I don't have any beef with Dottie. I could never have, nor could you with me.
Right.
But the spirit world is going to conflict in between us, and Satan is going to do anything he can to tear us down.
Right.
Whether it's because we write music that is speaking to the world and teaching the world about growing up. But I see that that's what God is allowing us to do in our ministry today, is to teach the church. Church, we're growing up.
Thank God.
And we have to know who our enemy is.
That's it.
We have to know it's not flesh and blood.
Right.
But it's with the principalities and the darkness that prevails in this world that Satan controls. That's our enemy. And we're growing through this, and we're growing above it. You know, one of the songs on the Son of Thunder record says, I can rise above it. I haven't really even realized until the more I live how much we continue to rise above,
we just must.
Above and above all the things that Satan throws at us. He may make us dart a little bit here or there, but he can't knock us off the track.
That's right. He's powerful, but we know one that's even more powerful.
That's right.
Darling, I'm so glad you came to be with me. This has been so good. I want to say hello to our baby, Dion. We love you. She watches, you know.
I know she does.
She's 7 years old. She danced on my show, you know, to We Shall Behold Him, ballet dancing. So she's proud of Daddy, too. She thinks he and Mama Reba is something very special. And we think she is, too, okay? We just threw her a kiss. Donnie, I love you, darling. Keep on telling it, because the more you tell it, the madder it makes the devil, and more joy it brings to the kingdom.
I know.
If we hurt, it's all right to hurt, and it's also all right to tell it, because when the restoration and the healing comes, it's even more real. But we have to be honest, don't we?
We do.
And you've been terribly honest, and I love you.
I love you.